Welcome back, listeners and viewers. We're here with another episode of the Power of Nine podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert. My guest today is an author, a NABO Hall of Famer, and the founder of a language solution firm that takes human-led, tech-enabled approach to giving a voice to those that need to speak to the world. Let's dig in and share the journey of my friend, Ingrid Christensen. Ingrid, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thrilled to be here. Excited to get this going.
Let's do this thing, right? So we became friends this last year from a mutual friend, Darren Lynch, which I think we're a couple of the only people that he sends Christmas cards to. I got mine in the mail. Did you get yours?
I got mine in the mail. Yes.
All right. So we have so right off the bat, when you're starting with a guy like that is a mutual friend who was our first podcast guest ever, 80 some episodes ago, it says a lot about like the type of people that I jive with. And right off the bat, like I met you and I feel like we just hit it off. So this has always been kind of on my mind is like, and you've got some pretty interesting aspects of your journey that I'm excited to dive into. I'm just thrilled that you're on the show.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled to be here. Excited to share a little bit about my journey and love that we've got Mr. Lynch in common. He's been a good friend of mine for well over a decade and he's a bit of a mental health support when things are falling apart at INGCO and all-time good person. So
yeah. Good. Well, let's dive into this. You know, as much as I want to put some emphasis on your career journey, what has shaped you is youth, right? So what was it? Where'd you grow up? What family dynamics? What was it like being a kid in your world?
Yeah, well, not super exciting there. I grew up here in Minnesota. I born and raised in Minnetonka, so I'm a proud skipper, graduated from Minnetonka High School, got all the good things out of a great education, raised by two parents, my mom and my dad, and I have a younger brother who's about 5 years younger than me. And at one point, everybody had left Minnesota except for me. And now they have all returned to Minnesota. So that's questionable as to why they've come back, especially as we're recording this on the coldest day of the year.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, so my parents are now divorced. They got divorced about 12-ish years ago. So long marriage and then divorce. But that happens. So my mom is here. She lives in the Twin Cities. My dad lives up on a lake in Nizwa. And my brother's out by Lake Minnetonka area. So we're all right here.
Was the entrepreneurial spirit alive in your family, or did your parents have like just have day jobs, or how, like, where do you think that, I always dive into that nature versus nurture thing. And I think, we're going to get into your career journey, but you just went all in right off the bat, which is fascinating. The path that you took. What is that nature versus nurture dynamic?
As far as I know, I'm the only business owner in my immediate family. So to answer your question, no, I was not raised by entrepreneurs. I had no idea what an entrepreneur was. My dad started his career as a union carpenter and worked his way up through a variety of different kind of construction jobs. In the end, was doing retail, project management. My mom worked in the public education system all of her life. So I'm sure, I don't know if that's a union. It may have been a union, but certainly she had a para and all the other stuff. So now, no business owners. I don't really know how that all happened, but I think I've always been an independent spirit and always kind of wanting to seek my own path, which led me to make choices and look for opportunities that other people frequently missed. And I think I learned early on that you say yes and figure it out, and good things happen. So that's the best I can gather.
Yeah. And I think life circumstance sometimes plays a role in that too, right? And were you a good, this is a nebulous term and I get that, but were you a good kid, like grades wise and all that other stuff?
Yeah, I was a typical oldest child, oldest daughter. I'm a Virgo, which doesn't help. So I'm a little, it's got to kind of fit in the box. So good student, super involved. I graduated with more credits from high school than I needed to because there were classes I wanted to take, was, did all the clubs and random things that a person could do in high school. Never like, I wasn't an excellent, athlete or anything, but I played a lot of sports. I did a lot of
Mhm.
clubs. I did theater. I did music. I don't know. I think I did the yearbook club. And I think back then we had a senior video and we had to learn how to edit videos on VCR
Yeah.
tapes. I think I did that. I did Earth Club. I did recycling, whatever, all these random things. Right. And there was something, I don't know, but there's something about seeing opportunities. I got really adept at looking at bulletin boards and reading like the signs on the bulletin boards. You'd be surprised. Like 99% of the human population, I don't think ever looked at a bulletin board, but there's really good things on bulletin
Yeah.
boards. So I
Yeah.
would find these opportunities and
Yeah.
I would show up. So that really helped me figure out that there's a bigger life and there's lots of fun things to do.
So if you look back on all, and even like, so a little behind the scenes, like you filled out this prep form, which I know enough to be dangerous about you, but what's awesome is I always learn things about people that I never would have learned if I don't do this podcast. But you just listed like all the different clubs and all the different things that you did in high school and things like that. Is there one that you look back on and be like, this is one thing that I'm so happy I did because it had such a positive contribution on my next step in my journey, which would be, secondary education.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, I don't know if there was one thing, right? Theater was amazing and made me comfortable standing on a stage, which led me to probably like, I love being on a stage. I love a microphone. I don't shy away from that. Music made me appreciate music. And I think I'm a really good karaoke singer. Not that that's helped my career trajectory, but I don't think it's hurt. I think saying yes to things shows the world that you're open. And I think the more you say yes, the more you're offered, the more opportunities you're offered. So I was offered, leadership development things or, the student. For one year, I was like the student that served on the school board. Remember what that particular title was. So I got a little bit of school board experience, signed up to go. I took French in high school and signed up to go to the school trip to France before asking my parents. So they really appreciated that, and we
I'm sure.
figured it
Yeah.
out. And then that really leads me to the biggest pivotal change in my life was applying to be a Rotary Exchange student
Mm.
before I told my parents I was applying to be a Rotary Exchange student. And then, getting accepted and moving into the interview process and really
Mm.
figuring out what could that look like to be abroad for a year. So I was accepted and I was an exchange student for a year between high school and college. And
Mm.
that decision ultimately was the most pivotal decision to date. That definitely set my career and my life on a very international trajectory that would not have existed had I not left the
Yeah.
world of Minnetonka.
Yeah, I mean, you can get into the every community has kind of got its own bubble, right? And if you're
Yeah.
not intentional about breaking out of that bubble, it can just hold you in forever. And boy, what a crazy experience that had to be. So Rotary, I get, we all know what Rotary does. Why Denmark?
You don't get to choose where you go. You put your top three choices. I spoke French, but I thought it'd be really cool to learn Spanish. So I wanted to go to a Spanish speaking country, but to go to like a French speaking country, a Spanish speaking country, I think maybe even German, you had to have some sort of command of the languages. And I didn't speak any Spanish. So that was an automatic no, even though I think I put it on there. And I'm Danish by heritage. So I think I ended up putting
Mhm.
Denmark as number three because I mean, I don't really know if I understood how big the world was.
Yeah, right.
But I put Denmark on there, and that was inevitably where they selected me to go, and they matched me with families in Denmark. So that set that in motion, and yeah, I was thrilled. I'll never forget the day when they notified you by mail back then, right? We didn't have
Yeah, right.
didn't have email in the early 90s. And so I just remember like being thrilled opening this envelope, and I remember calling my grandparents, and they were the first people that I told that I was accepted into this program, and they were of course thrilled. And well, slew of stuff clearly happened after that, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you or did you keep in touch and keep a relationship with that family that you lived with? I mean, a year is a long time, and so you're getting
Yeah,
to know each other at a very deep level. Like,
yeah.
how did you maintain all that?
Yeah, well, so I actually graduated from high school when I was 17. So I turned 18 when I was there. So I was quite young. And you have to remember this is before the internet, which I think is pivotal, right? There was no such thing as email, there was no such thing as cell phones. I got to talk to my parents every other Sunday evening for about 10 minutes, right? Because
Jeez.
international phone calls were quite expensive. And the only communication that I had with friends or family were old-fashioned letters, right? So it was a very
Pen pal.
different time. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and Rotary did an amazing job then. I assume they still do an amazing job of preparing both myself and my family for what this journey would look like. And they have a unique study abroad philosophy where you stay with three different families. You're not with the same family the whole time. So I got to experience three different areas of the city that I was in, and three different family lives. Like the first one, they had four daughters that lived in the house. I had never lived with any woman except for my mom. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
The next family, their kids were off at college. So it was just me. And then the next family didn't have any children ever and lived way out in the country. So that was a different experience. So three very different families, three very different experiences. But yes, I still stay in communication with all three families, and
Cool.
I'm still close with the kiddos from all three families. And I've had the
Cool.
opportunity to travel back to Denmark, and that really set my career and my life in a different direction, I guess, ultimately.
Well, too, being a younger high school graduate, I was like that too, right? And I feel like I look back on that, there's probably a lot of aspects of me that were pretty immature, and I think you probably went through a year of just like hardcore maturation, just because of being away and not, every other week being able to talk to your family for 10 minutes. Like you're immersed into a whole nother culture and environment that's going to do one of two
Yes.
things. It's either going to positively affect you or it's going to negatively affect you. And
Yeah.
it was the latter. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I oftentimes say that I learned more about myself in that year than I could have ever learned in a lifetime. And I learned
Yeah.
more about myself than I learned about the world. Certainly, I learned a lot about the world, and I learned how to explore, and I learned about people, and I learned about language, and all the other things that an abroad experience gives you, especially as a young person that had never been exposed really to anything international, right? But it wasn't. I don't think there were a lot of families that were traveling internationally back in the 90s. Certainly
Mhm.
not many that I knew. Now I think it's much more commonplace, but this was a bit of an anomaly. And yeah.
Did that inform that? So then that was let's call that gap year, right? That was your gap year.
Yep.
And then you came back and you went to go into your undergrad. Did that inform the decision that you made of what you wanted to focus on in your undergrad?
Uh, yes and no. So I came back, and of course, having just gone through the college experience with my son, who's a now freshman in college, like my college experience was very different, right? I didn't do college visits. I I think I took the ACT just to take it, but I certainly didn't have a plan. And so when I came back in July, I knew I needed to do something, right, in August. And so my college application involved my dad driving me down to the University of Minnesota, and he waited in his car, and I brought in this like packet of information. I'm like, I want to start in August, and whatever it was, 3 weeks. They looked through and they're like, okay, yep, we need a $300 deposit. I'm like, okay, let me go get it from my dad. I
Yeah.
trucked out to him. I'm like, Dad, I need a deposit. Give me a
Yeah.
check. Brought it back in, and then I started school. Right, that was the extent of it. There wasn't a lot of. I don't remember it being such a big deal as it is now. But anyway, yeah. So when I started at the university, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted some sort of international something to be a focus. And what I ended up with is my most amazing made up degree ever. Yeah, I mean, the University of Minnesota is great, right? Because you can literally study anything in the world. So,
Yeah.
yes, but we can get into
So
that when you're ready. But that's a whole
you literally
mouthful.
created your own major?
I did. Yes. So my undergraduate is called, and it's very timely actually, is called U.S. Mexican Border Issues with an emphasis on violence against women post NAFTA. So
Wow.
I did a senior thesis. I lived on the border for a year. I found another sign on another billboard that advertised a national school exchange. That's a whole other story. And I, ripped off the number of the billboard,
Nice.
not the billboard. What do you call those things? The
Bulletin board.
bulletin board. Thank you, not the
Yeah,
billboard.
yeah,
The
yeah,
bulletin board.
yeah.
And anyway, so I found my way into this national school exchange, lived on the border for a year, and was able to craft this major. And I worked with a professor from the law school, from the University of Minnesota Law School, Professor Fry, who worked with the United Nations, and they were starting to develop this program on investigating the violence against women. Because I'm sure, as you know, right, hundreds of thousands of women have been brutally murdered and
Yeah.
dismembered along the U.S. Mexican border and just left out in the desert, and nobody was doing anything about it. For some reason, it was really fascinating to me. So I started this whole study of borders, of international borders, and just understanding what is a border, how does it shape the people, the geography, the music, the culture, the art, topography, the history, all things of borders, and then certainly led me into a little bit of a international study of human rights, and that was my focus area. So that was my
Wow.
undergraduate degree. Very random. I think I'm the only
Wow.
one that has that. Um, Probably.
Self-design. Yeah.
Yeah, self-design. Yep. My minor was Danish, so I did
Oh.
get that in there. And then yeah, I thought I was going to go to law school. That was my intention,
Hmm.
was to go to law
Hmm.
school and do something with this
That
international
experience.
policy. Yeah, but
Did you, so
alas,
you
that's
said
how it
earlier
turned
that
out.
you, when you went to Denmark, that you didn't have any, you couldn't speak Spanish, so that kind of ruled out some things. Well, then you spent a year on the border and with immersing yourself into that culture, and so I'm assuming through that year you learned Spanish.
Yeah, I learned Spanish prior to that. So I
Oh, you did.
saw another sign on another bulletin board before the
You and your bulletin boards, I
before
love
the
it.
national school before the national school exchange. I decided to go to Mexico to study Spanish, to immerse
Hmm.
myself in a language institute. So I went to the southernmost state of Mexico. I was on the Guatemalan border in the state of Chiapas during, it was 92, 93, which, if anybody knows about Mexico at that time, there was a Zapatista revolution, and it was full of a lot of interesting things. So, again, on another border, but the southern border. And I lived with a family, and I studied Spanish every day at a little institute, and it was really fun. And I was there for a semester, yeah, 2 quarters. So it was the equivalent of a semester. So that's really how I got the base of Spanish.
Do you have any other? So you did that. I'm not trying to say like, do you have any more? This coming from a college dropout. So you did all of this different, which I'm going to kind of put it in the bucket of like unconventional education, right? Like one, you created your own
Mhm.
major. You're immersing yourself into multiple cultures, whether it be pre-college or during college, all that other stuff. Did you do any other like? I also feel like you're kind of an education junkie a little bit in that respect.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
And
I've got
and
a lot of other education things, but we don't need to dive into that. I will say that the other probably important education pieces are after I graduated with my undergrad in this crazy degree, I knew that I would, well, that's a whole other story. But anyway, I started working as a Spanish interpreter, still thinking I was going to go to law school. I went back to the U and they have a great certificate in translation and interpreting. So I did that, a 2-year certificate, which is incredible that they offered that. And then at some point, a few years later, I went to do an MBA at Hamlin, thinking that I would get a real job. All along, I just kept doing what I was originally doing. So that's it.
let's take a quick break here. Let's listen because I'm going to dive into that part, and this is where we think that it was fascinating up until this point. Like I think this is where it really starts to get cool. So let's take a quick break. Let's listen to a few of our community supporters, and let's come right back here with Ingrid Christensen. Be right back. When you think of a typical CPA firm, you probably think of tax planning. Well, that just scratches the surface of what Boulay offers their clients. By providing smart, in-depth thinking from experts in accounting, audit, tax, and business consulting, they know what it takes to achieve financial success. Whether it's protecting your business, building your wealth, or securing your future, you can count on Boulay to go beyond addressing just financial matters and providing you with tailor-made, workable solutions. Learn about all they have to offer at bouleygroup.com. Boulay, helping you get there. Verseek Search and Consulting is thrilled to support Coalition 9 for another exciting year. Verseek is a Minnesota-based, high-performance recruiting firm that specializes in interim solutions, direct hire, and executive leadership search. Our team of experienced professionals and seasoned leaders across various areas of expertise and industries have been in your shoes. We quickly assess your whole company and identify key elements that will take your business to the next level. Your company's success hinges on the capacity of your people, and a few areas of your business are more critical than your finance and accounting team. You need talent who can move the needle while winning the trust of leaders and stakeholders within your organization. Your people make it possible. Verseek can help connect you with the talented candidates within finance and accounting for consulting or direct hire needs, as well as within the industry areas in executive search, direct hire, and interim solutions. People are the ultimate business advantage. Find your people together with Verseek and make the best possible for your business. Learn more by visiting Verseek.com and by following Verseek on LinkedIn. Tradition Capital Bank is a local bank that has the products and capabilities to service middle market companies, nonprofits, and their owners, employees, and families by offering a high-touch approach paired with customizable solutions. Think of them as your nimble allies serving with generosity, care, and precision. Tradition starts with the assumption that there's always more to learn, try, and discover, aiming to find the best yes for whomever they have the privilege of working beside. From a foundation of trust, Tradition takes disciplined, smart risks to help people grow beyond what they even thought possible. Tradition Capital Bank is the second largest privately owned bank headquartered in the Twin Cities, and with locations in Edina, Wayzata, and North Oaks, Minnesota, alongside their office in Scottsdale, Arizona, Tradition Capital Bank is committed to big bank offerings with a small bank ethos. Let their team be the friend you need in your next financial move. Regardless if you're a startup just figuring things out or a medium-sized organization with a full team, having a legal partner by your side is crucial. Seiler Law is fiercely loyal to their clients and are passionate about removing headaches and roadblocks that can pop up during the growth of your business. Whether you need general outside counsel, are planning a business transaction, or even need someone to guide you through the estate planning process, the team at Seiler Law are the advocates for you. Visit seilerlaw.com to learn more. Seiler Law, where experience meets pragmatism. The topic of talent is hot in organizations of any size, and I would argue none more than small to mid-sized businesses. That's why it's crucial to have a partner to help you navigate all the HR idiosyncrasies so you can focus on working on your business and not in it. Insperity is a full-service HR partner with a high-touch, high-tech platform helping owners work through challenges like employee retention, company culture, and benefits, just to name a few. Do yourself a favor and explore all they have to offer at Insperity.com. Insperity, HR that makes a difference. All right, we're back here with Ingrid. This is the part I was excited about because you are the only person so you were doing some freelance interpreting, right? And then all of a sudden you decided, well, you know what? I might as well just make this a business. And so on our prep form, one of the things that I asked is, what was your quote unquote first real job? And like, you don't have a first real job. Your first real job is the business you own now and are synergistic with. Like, what was that thought process that you had at that time? And did it seem like at the time like such a daunting thing to jump into the entrepreneurial world? Or was it just calling to you and it was just so natural that it was almost like you'd be a dummy not to do it?
Well, I think it was somewhere in between that, plus mixed with a few other variables that were occurring in my life. So I fell into this job of interpreting. I didn't even know it was a job. I didn't consider that this could be a person's real life work. And then I became certified by the Department of Health. I became certified by the Supreme Court. So I often joke that I've been in and out of jail more than most people that I know. And I've been with people when they take their first breath. So I've been in lots of labors and delivery, and I've been with people when they take their last breath, and everywhere in between. As an interpreter, you literally are alongside people for every aspect of their life, and you never know what's coming. So I knew that I loved the work. I was super passionate about the work. But I also knew that I was capped out, right? I wasn't going to be able to make more money. There weren't any more possibilities of me here in Minnesota. I had great aspirations to be a UN interpreter, but you had to have command of 4 languages. I only had command really of 2. I would have taken a really long time to become fluent at the level that I needed to be to work at the UN. So I thought, well, I should probably start a business. I don't know. It just seemed to, I remember carrying around like notebooks and just writing all my dreams and, what did I want out of life? And one recurring theme was I want to own my own business. I want to own my own agency. I want to do what I'm doing now for other agencies, but I want to do it better. I want to be mindful of the work that interpreters and translators do. It's really hard work. It's heartbreaking work. It's really amazing work. But I didn't feel a lot of empathy from the agencies that I was working with. And I really wanted to bring that aspect to life. Simultaneously, one should note that I had a baby in 2005, in September of 2005. And I was essentially a single mom, like driving around trying to do things in my mobile office, which was my car. And I knew that I had to figure out a different way because that was not going to be sustainable. And I could not raise a child on
Yeah. Yeah.
that living.
That's so what you're like, it's pretty shocking to me how many people I've had on this podcast that have had a baby and then started a business or like in the same 2 year span. I mean, one, I can't even imagine having a child, bringing a child into this world and then having anything but a day job, right? And then also making sure you're pouring into something else that gives you life and passion. Like, was it just predetermined for you in your head? Like, all right, regardless of what's going on with my son, this also is going to be something that I'm going to give as much energy and passion as I possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things. One is the professional service industry, like the risk was really low because in my mind, one of the questions I ask myself frequently is what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, it could fail. And then I would just go back to freelancing. And I certainly I had the education, right? I probably could have found a different job. So the fear of failure was so minimal on the list of concerns that didn't even factor anywhere. Second of all, being a professional services, I didn't need an office. I didn't need equipment. I didn't need inventory, right? I just needed me. I
Yeah.
needed me. I was my biggest asset. And I would carry my business cards and my little 3-fold brochure. And anytime I had an appointment in any sort of office building and I had a little bit of time before or after, I would just knock on the door and just leave my brochure around town.
Yeah.
And that's how I grew the business is
Jeez.
people eventually started calling. And when one person called, they would refer me to somebody else. And it grew rather organically and rather naturally. Did I know what I was doing? No. I mean, I didn't even know that I had to pay business taxes for the first year. And so when I went to my accountant, he's like, well, you've got a business, like what's going on? Like, where's your, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to run this business. Just
Yeah.
trying to
Trying to
keep
make some
afloat
money.
here. Trying to make some money. And he's like, all right, well, we're gonna have to change some stuff.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna need some of that money.
yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about? You want me to give this money
Yeah.
back? I'm
Yeah.
not giving this to you. So yeah, so there was a lot of learning curves along the way, lots of mess ups, but I don't know, Aaron, I didn't think about it. I just did it. It
Yeah.
just
Just
it didn't
conscious
occur to
confidence.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was working right after I delivered in the hospital room because I had to get these documents out. There were a bunch of students that were here from Venezuela, and they urgently needed these documents translated because if they didn't, then they were going to be kicked out of the country and sent back to Venezuela. And that sense of urgency was so strong, and my sense of commitment to making sure that
Mm.
these young adults, kids, didn't get sent back. So, I'm holding the baby in one hand and tapping my translation with the other
Yeah,
hand.
same.
Uh,
Yeah.
you, you do what you do what you have to do. It wasn't like I was doing anything impossible. Listen, I wasn't like building the Taj
Right,
Mahal or
right.
something. I was just using my time and my talents.
And I think that there's that is a huge part of the, the entrepreneurial journey or whatever. How long did you operate? So from when you launched the business, made the decision that you are all in on this, all the while caring for your son and living life, right? So then there's got to be some kind of inflection point to where you feel like, okay, I can't do this all myself, or we've got enough clients in here where I need to hire somebody to support me or something like that. How long was it before you made your first hire?
Let's see. So I officially started the business February 6th of 2006. It was a very similarly freezing cold day. And back then, you had to go to the Secretary of State and drop off your
Mm,
paperwork, right? I don't
yeah.
think you could email it. I don't know. But I remember going, standing in line. And I remember that as a very pivotal day because I was like in between appointments, right? So I'm hustling, trying to live my life. And I couldn't figure out the name of the company. And really, that's what kept holding me back from like just going to turn this paperwork in. I couldn't figure out a name for the company. And the lady was super crabby at the Secretary of State. She's like, "You need a business name." I'm like, "Well, I know I need a business name, but what do you think about this or that?" And she's like, "Next."
Uh,
I'm like, "No, I don't have time to go back to the end of the line." So that's how I threw out INGCO, which is short for Ingrid's company, in case anyone hasn't figured
yeah.
that out. So that, and very creative, that set me on this path. And then I think I decided I needed help with, there were two things I needed help with. One, I needed help with invoicing. I was really bad at invoicing. And if you don't invoice, you don't get paid. So that was an essential
Yep.
thing.
I've heard that.
And I needed help with scheduling because clients would still call and ask for interpreters at such and such time. So I'd have all these millions of notebooks with stuff, and then I would forget to put appointments in the
Oh,
calendar. And so if you lose, the two critical things I learned: one, you got to invoice; two, you can't let a client down.
yeah.
Potential client, new client, old client, you can't let them down. You gotta say yes and figure it out, and you have to over deliver 100%. So I'm pretty sure that I know my first hire was my mom. My mom was like, "Okay, I'll help you do this." I was like, "Okay, well, I can't pay you." She's like, "Okay, that's fine." And so that was my first hire. I don't know if that's a hire, if it's free. Does that
Well, I
count?
mean, yeah, no, I'd count that. I think, more of the what I was getting at is like, when do you start to, I think, whether it be myself or other founders, that letting go of the reins a little bit is really hard,
Mm,
and
mm,
delegation is really hard. Did you find that came natural to you, of like, I cannot wait to get this
no.
off my plate, or did you have such ownership of things where you always had like a dotted line to everything, and maybe you still do?
Okay, listen, my company runs itself amazingly well when I get out of the way. The only time that we screw up is when I'm involved. And I struggle with that more than anything else, is just
Yeah.
getting the heck out of the way.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, even though I know very well that they do their job much better than I do, I still think that I should get involved and try to fix stuff. And every time I do, it creates a complete disaster.
Yeah.
So no, that does not come. That doesn't come
Yeah.
naturally.
Right.
I can pinpoint back to all of the major screw ups that we've had, and it's all been because of me.
Cool.
So yeah, so
So,
I'm still learning that.
so let's dive in. So you've owned this business for like 19 years, which is awesome. You're coming up on your 18 technically, as of right now, 18 and like
Yeah,
26 days or some shit like that. But
yeah.
so I want to look back on these last 18 plus 19 years of two things that I think you could probably pick out of, like, what is one of the best possible things that could have happened to you in this business over the last 18 years, independent of what we just talked about? And then what is one of those things where it was just like, I wish I would have gotten out of my own way, or here's one of those screw ups
Mm,
that I think someone could listen to this podcast and be like, all right, either I can see myself doing that, or I need to make sure and avoid that.
yeah. Okay, so two pivotal things that helped me. One, I found the EO Accelerator program.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty sure they still offer it, right? That's
Hmm.
Entrepreneurs
Hmm.
Organization. That's a big international organization, but they had an accelerator program that was
Hmm.
absolutely amazing. It was a 2-year accelerator program. I think we met monthly or quarterly, full day. It was the first time that I ever really thought about working on the business, not in the business, and really understanding financials, really understanding an HR strategy, a sales strategy, a marketing strategy, and a cohort of people that were in the same exact situation as me. And at that point, I learned how absolutely pivotal it is to have a peer support group.
Hmm.
You can't do this without
Hmm.
that, right? You got to get a C9 group.
Yeah, yeah. So, something
You have
like
to
that,
have
right? I don't
you
care what
have
it is. You
to.
got to do
I
something.
don't
Yep.
care what it is. You've got to
Yep.
get. You can't count on your friends. You certainly can't count on your family. If they are not entrepreneurs walking the walk right alongside you, they will never understand this journey. And it took me a
Yeah.
really long time to figure that out. And it cost me friendships, right? Because I expected friends to be able to understand and they just couldn't. So finding that initial group and that initial accountability and understanding what it takes and the seriousness that it takes to run a business and run a business effectively, and how slow it is and how long it takes, and
Yeah.
that it requires an insane amount of patience, and grit and resilience, and just being surrounded by people that had to practice that every day, I think was pivot point number one. And through that, finding the EOS system.
Mhm.
EOS changed the trajectory of my business. We doubled our revenue. Granted, our revenue was super small, right? We had like a $200,000 revenue, but we doubled it the first year that we implemented
Yeah.
EOS. And we've been on a growth trajectory ever since, and really putting a method to the madness and having a defined system. I don't think EOS is perfect for everyone,
Yep.
but for me, it cleared out the ping pong balls running around my head, right? It was like a constant like flip flop of
Hmm.
stuff, and I was trying to hyper control it all. And together, through like having this defined system and pairing that with this peer group, I finally started to get clarity on what actually needed to happen to try to make this a mature business.
Yeah.
Because for probably the first 10 years, it wasn't a mature business. It was just me running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying
Yeah.
to do things, make a decision, not have it work, and then change a path, go somewhere else. That didn't work. Change another path, go somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so constantly taking my eye off the ball and not being focused, and not giving myself the discipline to really try to build an effective business. So I would say that those are the two biggest pivot points.
Yeah, obviously, it goes without saying that I'm going to say the peer group thing is a no-brainer for
Yeah.
anybody, right? So I'm not going to go down that path, but I do think so EOS is a community supporter of ours, so I obviously know a ton of people that do EOS in their businesses or are implementers. Did you hire an implementer right off the bat, or did you try doing it yourself, or both, or like?
Yeah, I think I tried doing pieces of it by myself. Certainly EO is not aligned with EOS, but
Mhm.
EOS is so embedded in the Minnesota business community that
Yeah, for
you're
sure.
far-fetched to try to find a small business that doesn't run on EOS.
Yeah.
And so I think I was introduced to a lot of the concepts through EO, and it just made sense to me. And then reading Traction and Get a Grip, like I'm like, oh, this actually makes sense. And so, trying to self implement, but then I did bring in a professional implementer. I brought in Greg Saunders as my professional
Oh yeah.
implementer, and he really helped us put some
Some
stuff
teeth
into
into it.
action,
Yeah. Heck yeah.
some teeth into
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one thing I've done a really not a great job of right now is like letting you share. So you said a crazy stat to me in our C9. So let's just full disclosure, you're in my C9 group, and so I get to hear things at a pretty deep level, and have gotten to know you pretty intimately over the last 6 months or so since you joined us. Now, you said a crazy stat, like there is like 6,000 language translation firms in the United States, which is a number that blew my mind. And so
Mhm.
what so I think that that term, language translation firm, can be taken a lot of different ways and can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. What is a language translation firm like yours, and what is the service that it provides clients?
Yeah. So great question. I would say so. Language service company is the umbrella term. So we call ourselves LSCs, language service companies, and the main service that we provide is taking something from one language to another. And that something usually falls into one of three different buckets. The first bucket is translation. So, translation is anything written. So, any form of written communication that could be a website, it could be a legal document, it could be marketing material, it could be instructions, anything written is translation. The next kind of bucket is interpreting. Interpreting is spoken. So anything spoken, which also includes American Sign Language, which is
Mm.
within our industry. It's not necessarily a service that we specialize in for a lot of different reasons. That's a whole other podcast. But within the interpreting kind of leg of the services we offer, there's a lot of different variables. There's there's in-person interpreting, there's over the phone interpreting, there's video remote interpreting, there's consecutive interpreting, there's simultaneous interpreting, there's medically certified interpreting, there's legally certified interpreting. You can be certified at the federal level. You can have no certification at all. Little known fact, you're not required to be certified at any point to be an interpreter. So you can just say, I could walk in and say I'm your Somali interpreter and I don't speak a word of Somali, right? They probably wouldn't believe me, but
Right.
I could. A whole different concept. That why there's no certification has to do with billing and all the other stuff. But there are some areas where language services are mandated on both the interpreting and the translation front. Also, another whole different topic of discussion. But then the third area, we like to call it multilingual AV services. So that's anything from subtitling to voiceovers. It could be AI assisted in all of these things or human led. That's localization, that's transcreation, that's really putting the finishing touches on the work, on the language work, and really making sure that it's culturally relevant and adapting things to a different level for a different culture and a different language. It's a huge industry, larger than the global music industry, which most people don't
Wow.
know. Revenue wise, we're larger than the global music industry. Highly, what's the right word? Highly defragmented, right? There's so many providers just in the US, like over 6,000 providers. The majority of those companies are one person shops, less than $2 million. There's the top 10. One company has surpassed the $1 billion mark.
Wow.
The rest of them, are very successful companies, but they're not past that $1 billion mark. Most of the companies at that level are providing all of the services I just offered, plus maybe other ones, maybe like some global content creation. They probably have some software that they've developed, project management type stuff, maybe some consulting. So I would say that, there's a wide breadth of services that language service companies offer. But the basic is you need anything to go from one language to another. And that's essentially what we do.
Before we get into the 9 questions, which I'm pumped to have you do, but you mentioned it, but you kind of breezed over it a little bit, and I think everybody that's listening to this is going to say, like, what role does AI play in translation? I mean, I think the general consumer that is exposed to this has got like Google Translate on their phone or something
Mhm.
like that. So there's an AI aspect to that, and it's getting more and more robust. But I think what I've gathered from you is that you're taking an approach to where it's a yes and, like it complements your business, but there's got to be the human element that always is playing a role in that. How are you embracing AI, and how are you making that part of your offering?
Yeah, so we are taking a yes and. It's a very consultative approach. We offer it to all of our clients. We have access to large language models that most people don't have access to. They're not inexpensive, so usually price at this point is a huge deciding factor. There are in the world that I currently see AI, it will not be able to take the human out of translation. AI is a very word for word based algorithm. Sometimes it can gather some nuances, some undertones, but it certainly cannot gather all of them. at this point. Whether or not it will in the future, TBD. One thing that we're really leaning on AI for right now is automation of project management tasks, automation of content creation, just like everyone else is, automation of those tasks that the human doesn't want to do. So my approach is I'm trying to free up my staff's time to use their brain in the biggest and best way possible so that they're not bogged down by the boring, mundane daily tasks. There are some pretty cool tools coming down the pipeline as far as simultaneous assistance. We have access, and we've had access for a long time, to different translation management tools that track translations for consistency and accuracy, things like that we've been doing for 15 plus years. 15 years, 20 years ago, when these came down the pipeline, the industry thought we were going to be obsolete in 5 years. But now the realization is that to really put those finishing touches on translation, and oh, by the way, those are the services that tend to have the highest cost, really require that human touch. So yes, we're able to do things quicker. We're able to do things with a little bit more accuracy, for sure, with more consistency. But the humans that are still involved are more essential than ever, and are demanding higher rates alongside of that. So we haven't seen a downtick in the industry. The industry continues to grow, on average about 15 to 20% year over year, with the addition of all these new services, shifts to new services. But yeah, something like Google Translate is great for your average traveler. If you need to read a menu, if you need to speak with somebody under an emergency situation, yeah, awesome. Absolutely. But if you're even in the best, I'll give you a stat, even in the best trained large language models, Spanish is about 30% accurate. Those are the highest, the highest LLMs that they've trained, 30% accuracy. So all of our clients who are translating manufacturing information, or maybe it's a pharmaceutical company writing an instruction document on how to implant something in someone's brain. Well, if it's 30% accurate, that's not great. That's not good. There's clearly issues there that I don't need to mention. So long ways to go.
That last part that you just talked about was fascinating. I think that was a good exclamation point on the why behind it, because I look at it from a consumer standpoint, not knowing your business, of just like how complicated is the American language and the slang that we use and all of those other things. I can only imagine trying to get software to try and figure all that stuff out. Yeah. But the way that you explained it on the technical side, you make one small word change in a technical manual, and you're embedding something into somebody's brain, and they go, maybe there's the MM should have been a CM or something like that. Anything that could be a very bad thing.
Very bad.
Fascinating. Yes. Fascinating. Okay, let's take a quick break. I told you, this is one of those podcasts I could probably go on forever. There's multiple times you said that could be a whole nother podcast. I don't know. Yeah. I just think you're a fascinating person. So that we could do 2.0 at some point. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to listen to a few of our community supporters, and then I'm going to dive into 9 questions. I got a couple of them that I'm glad I have ready to go for you.
CAISA Wealth Management treats each client like a member of the family. Acting as your personal CFO, we are fiercely devoted to your financial prosperity. At CAISA, our wealth strategies are aligned with your core values, creating a wealth plan centered around the legacies you wish to create. This is our CAISA commitment. Our wealth strategies are dynamic and tailor-made for your long-term goals, because as a family investment firm, excellence in service is not just a promise, it's our baseline. Whether it's selling a business, planning succession, creating a legacy, navigating life's changes like death and divorce, supporting executives on the move, planning for your retirement, or just preserving your family wealth, we are here for you. Find out how we can help to simplify your wealth at kaisawealth.com.
Are you a local business owner looking to take your enterprise to the next level? Look no further than Security Bank and Trust Company, your partner in growth. Our dedicated team of smart, experienced bankers understand the unique challenges and opportunities facing businesses like yours. With personalized financial solutions and expert advice, we're here to help you succeed every step of the way. From tailored business loans to cutting-edge digital banking services, Security Bank and Trust is committed to your success. Experience the difference a local bank can make. Visit us today at any of our convenient locations or online at security-banks.com. Security Bank and Trust, growing together.
United Healthcare is dedicated to helping people live healthier lives and making the health system work better for everyone by simplifying the healthcare experience, meeting consumer health and wellness needs, and sustaining trusted relationships with care providers. UHC is continually focused on building a modern, high-performing health system via improved access, affordability, outcomes, and experiences. With a network of over 1.6 million physicians and healthcare professionals and over 6,000 hospitals, United Healthcare is dedicated to connecting employers and their employees to better health by offering quality benefits designed for affordability. For more information, visit United Healthcare at www.uhc.com. United Healthcare, helping people live healthier lives. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Your business is having challenges with adding revenue, or you're ready for quicker growth and scale. Your sales team lacks a coach or mentor to help guide and excel their production. And you're not quite sure who the best resource is for sourcing and replacing sales professionals on your team. When you're looking for a company that provides sales solutions that drive growth, look up SalesHomie. SalesHomie is the premier fractional CRO or VP sales agency, additionally offering sales recruiting and placement services, sales leadership coaching, and sales team training programs. Don't put your business at risk with low revenues and uninspired sales professionals. Learn more about SalesHomie by visiting their website at saleshomie.com. SalesHomie, sales solutions that drive growth. As a boutique Twin Cities-based investment banking firm, Madeira Partners works closely with family, founder, and management-owned businesses, bringing over 25 years of experience and hundreds of successful transactions to the table. It's in their DNA to educate owners on what potential exit opportunities look like, along with any industry or company-specific things to think about to make your business more attractive to potential buyers. Regardless if you want to sell tomorrow or in 10 years, the team at Madeira Partners would love to provide their expertise and guidance along the way. Take some time to explore their website at madeirapartners.com. Madeira Partners, your life's work deserves our best work. In addition to our amazing prospering and thriving level supporters, we want to shine a spotlight on our equally amazing evolving level supporters: Alliant Insurance Services, Bauer Design Build, Beyond Design Resource Group, EntreBank, Fluid Interiors, and Modern Foundation. All of the Coalition 9 community supporters can be found at coalition9.com/community-supporters. All right, we're back with Ingrid. Ingrid, thank you so much for agreeing to be on this podcast and agreeing to deal with this whole 9-question BS. Can you confirm to me that you have no idea what I'm about to ask you?
I have no idea what you're going to ask me. I'm a little nervous, Aaron, but I'm going to power through.
Good. All right. I started out definitely very nice. All right. So you talked about being, you talked about loving karaoke. If there's one song that comes on the radio when you're in your car and you have to sing out loud, what is that song?
No Getting Over Me by Ronnie Millsap.
Oh, classic country. Mm-hmm. Nice.
Oh, yeah. Best song ever.
Yeah, that's a good
It'd be like the book you just can't put down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and I guarantee you know all the words too. So
I do. Yes.
Oh, that's a good tune. That
will be stuck in your head.
Conjured something in my memory. I'm a big classic country fan, and Waylon and Willie and all that stuff. But Ronnie Millsap is right up there with him.
He's often forgotten, but he should not. He should be at the forefront of everyone's mind.
Amazingly talented. If I remember correctly, he was blind.
Yeah. He was. There he is. Yeah. He's still alive.
He is. Yeah.
Not performing anymore.
Yeah.
Lives in Texas somewhere. Yep.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. What was your first car?
Oh, my first car was some navy blue Mazda. I don't even remember what the model was because it's not around anymore, but I loved it because it had one of those the moon roofs.
Yeah.
That you could screw it and then it would lift up and it would let some air in. It was pretty sweet. Hatchback, 5-speed, roll down windows. Yeah.
Yeah. We all had those cars. Yeah, for sure. Love it. Well, we did. Younger folks these days have got cars that actually have they can press a button and it opens the moonroof.
No, they have brand new cars. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they do. And it could be our 4th podcast.
It could be
one together. Yeah. What was your favorite cartoon or TV show as a child?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I grew up in a family with one teeny tiny TV, and my parents did not allow us to have cable, and we didn't have a VCR. So we didn't watch a ton of TV, but we were allowed to watch Saturday morning cartoons, which my brother and I always battled over. It was like Channel 4 or 5. I don't remember which one it was. I also remember watching like MacGyver. I'm going to go with MacGyver. I mean, how cool is MacGyver? The guy can literally solve any problem. MacGyver.
And I think, isn't it Richard Dean Anderson is the actor in MacGyver? And I think he's a Minnesotan.
He is?
Yeah.
Of course he's a Minnesotan. We're problem solvers here.
Yeah. My third grade teacher went to high school with him.
Amazing.
Isn't that weird?
Okay. Yeah.
Literally, you saying MacGyver made me think of my third grade teacher. So, weird.
That's hilarious.
What is one of your hidden talents?
Oh, well, I don't know how hidden it is. Okay, well, I don't know how it goes. It's in alignment with karaoke, and it's not so hidden anymore. But I am a self-declared professional tambourinist.
Which is not really easy because if you don't have rhythm, you're going to be a terrible tambourine player.
You suck, number one. But two, one of my greatest, alongside with that talent is that I have to, acquire the tambourine from the band usually, which requires a little bit of, sweet talking and convincing that I have rhythm and I'm not going to screw it up. So that's usually part one, is getting on stage to acquire said tambourine. Stage two is really demonstrating my talent.
I look forward to seeing this at some point, hopefully in 2025, firsthand. If you could do something for a living other than INGCO, language, like anything under the umbrella of what you do, that three-legged stool of what you do, you can't do anything related to, let's just say, language, interpretation, anything. What would you do?
Well, I've always dreamed of being a photographer for National Geographic.
Cool.
That count? I'm a terrible photographer, but I guess I would learn. If I could do anything, I would learn. And I would.
It's your job. And you love to travel. We've talked about that in the past. You and I have talked about that in the past.
So I don't know if that's cheating. If I couldn't do that, I would be like a very interim kindergarten teacher, but I would only go into read books to little kids.
The fun part. And supervise nap time.
Oh, yeah. Or just sit there and read them books. That would be so joyful.
Yeah. And then get out of there when they start flipping out.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. What is your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve, people that don't know how to drive, especially those that call themselves drivers, specifically like Uber drivers or bus drivers or taxi drivers. And when they don't know how to drive and that's their primary job, it really irks me.
Yeah, I have two major ones related to driving is people that don't know how to zipper merge and people that drive slow in the left lane.
Yeah.
I literally hit another level of anger that I don't get road rage, but boy, it pisses me off. Something's furious.
Or how about those that stop at the traffic circles?
Just go.
Keep going, people. We can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. That choice language comes out of my mouth at that point. Okay, opposite of that, what is one quality in a person that impresses you?
A growth mindset. And a willingness and a commitment to learning.
Well said. Love that. That doesn't surprise me either. If you could compete in one Olympic sport, summer or winter, what would it be?
Having never been asked this question, I'm going to go with the high jump. How cool would it be to high jump?
Yeah.
Never high jumped in my life. Yeah.
There's so much technique that goes into that. I got to imagine, I was in track in high school and stuff like that, but high jump would not be in my repertoire of things to do. I think that body control, core control, all that stuff.
Yeah. Plus then there's this element of flying and I track was nothing that I was ever interested in. I don't really like to run fast anywhere. So that's not my...
Probably a fifth podcast. All right. All right. Number 9. That went fast so far. 1 through 8 went very fast. And so a little bit more challenging one. In your own words, how would you define success?
I think the key element to success is figuring out what freedom means to you. So I think when people are thinking about how am I going to define, am I successful in this role? Has my life been successful? It's figuring out what does freedom mean? What does that look like? Is that financial freedom? Is that freedom of the mind, freedom of movement, freedom of to be with family, whatever whatever the different aspects of that are. And I think that that's the base foundation of being successful, is when you can really clearly communicate to yourself and to others what the freedom looks like and how that plays into your success. Because I think once you define what your core value of freedom is, then that really helps you shape what the other areas of your life can and should look like. And then you really figure out, what are you a yes to? What are you a no to? What are the core values that you're willing to go into battle for? And when you have that clearly defined, I think it makes it easier to say those yeses and nos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Good answer. Love it. See, that wasn't so bad. Those
Not bad at all.
Yeah, I took it easy on you.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. All right. So let's wrap this thing up. I want to give a little bit of a shout out to your book, Language of Trust. So we're going to put a link to that in our show notes. So anybody that wants to go explore that, we didn't really touch on that. We're pushing an hour here, and I think we could have went for a lot longer talking about some of those things. So go ahead and explore Ingrid's book. And then how can people get a hold of you? Like website, LinkedIn, like where can people, where do you want to try and push people to?
I'm most active on LinkedIn. So I think I'm just under Ingrid Christensen. Well, I am under Ingrid Christensen. I don't have any other aliases that I'm aware of. So you can find me there. I mostly just like snoop on Instagram and just find things that the algorithms I think I should buy. So I'm not really there very often. Facebook, I really just use for the photo memories. So that's not where you can find me. So I would say LinkedIn, or our website, INGCOinternational.com, is all things about our wonderful language service company.
Awesome. And yeah, like we'll put links to that stuff, not your Instagram or Facebook or photo memories or anything else.
But there's not going to be much there.
No, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't sound like fun time for you. So we'll just put a couple links in there for people to explore, learn more about you. If they want to reach out to you, they can find you in those spots. And here's what I'll say, just to kind of put a little bit of a bow on this, is that, getting to know you over the last 6-9 months, I guess it's been now, and learning about your business, I've learned so much just about the industry that you're so passionate about. One, all the different people that you serve globally and the good work that you do. And then you put on top of that this personality that you got, which is you're fun to have on a podcast. Like, I think more people need to get you on podcasts. You're an amazing public speaker. I've seen you speak before in the past, many, many years ago, before we even knew each other. But it's been a gift to have you part of C9, to build a relationship with you. And I'm just pumped to call you a friend.
Awesome, Aaron. Thank you so much. This has been super fun. You are just a joy of a human being, and the way you connect people and just the glue of humanity is incredible. And yes, I'll take anybody's offer up on podcasts. I love to talk, and also love public speaking. That's been one of the really fun things that's come out of writing the book, is lots of speaking opportunities. So, yeah, fun time.
Sweet.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. On behalf of Ingrid, this has been the Power of 9 podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert, and I want to thank you for the privilege of your time.